it would be great in a moment like this to be able to laugh it off, release a little bit of tension, find some humor in all of it. Unfortunately, that got a lot harder this week with the end of the Colbert Show on CBS. And it raises a question about the entire spectrum of late night comedy, media, the role of satire in our politics. And it's something you wanted to take a look at in this week's Deep Dive.
Stephen Colbert taped his final Late Show, closing a franchise that's been on CBS for 33 years. It's a good moment to ask, are we watching the death of late night television? Late night was born as a shared cultural experience. Steve Allen invented the Tonight Show format in 1954. Johnny Carson owned it for 30 years. 75 million people, one channel, one moment. Then came the late night wars. David Letterman changed the tone completely. His version of late night was ironic, weird, self-aware, and anti-establishment. He helped define Gen X comedy and heavily influenced modern internet humor before the internet even existed. The battle between Letterman and Leno in the 1990s became one of the biggest media rivalries in television history. Late night had real cultural power. Winning late night meant owning the national conversation. Then the format evolved again with political comedy. Jon Stewart and The Daily Show transformed comedy into political commentary. That influence exploded during the Iraq War, the Bush years, Obama-era media fragmentation, and especially the Trump era. By the time Stephen Colbert took over The Late Show, late night had shifted from celebrity culture toward political catharsis. But at the same time, the internet was quietly destroying the entire ecosystem. YouTube, podcasts, TikTok, streaming, and social media shattered the monoculture that made late night powerful in the first place. Instead of watching a full hour at 11:35 p.m., audiences consume clips, podcasts, shorts, memes, and reaction videos. Late night stopped being a national gathering place and became content chopped into algorithms. That's why the recent struggles and exits in late night feel culturally significant. It's not just about one host retiring or one show ending. It represents the collapse of an entire media era, the end of shared national entertainment experiences. So is late night dead or just transforming?
That was a great segment. And I love the meta way in which you leveraged AI. If people couldn't tell, you cleverly made an AI avatar of yourself to make it look like you were a late night host as part of that. And it really spotlights how there's a form of media here that's old and being replaced by new forms of media. It's not that late night humor or political satire is going away. It's that it's changing. Its role is changing. The access is changing. The way we relate to it is changing. Satire, we put a lot of weight on it, and we sometimes ask, does it work? You mock politicians. Why doesn't it destroy them? We've been mocking Donald Trump for 10 years now and more, and it doesn't seem to take him down. And I think that's asking too much of political humor. Satire and humor, they're not for achieving political ends. They're for helping us deal with political pain. It does help us to form impressions. It does help us to think about political figures in different ways. SNL's portrayal of Gerald Ford in the 70s made him seem like a hapless, clumsy buffoon when he was anything but. He was one of the most adept athletes to ever occupy the Oval Office. The portrayal of Sarah Palin by Tina Fey in 2008, critical to forming our impression of her as a total dunce, although she probably could have done that on her own. We've lost some of that. I think that's a double-edged sword because we don't have a media monoculture anymore. I do think that there is a real loss involved in that. And you're seeing it with Colbert because Colbert was able to provide a sophistication to his commentary, the multi-level of humor and insight and providing news. So many people report that they get their news through The Daily Show and Comedy Central, sources like that, John Oliver. So there is a loss of something that serves an important function. I'm not sure what's going to replace it.
One of the reasons I wanted to do that video using AI, 100% AI, is just because that is the fundamental problem that I think late night comedy has right now.
Yeah.
Is that there are so many other ways in order to get it. You're right. Going back to the old SNL days, even in the 2000s, where it did become must watch to see what the political stories were. And you're right about Sarah Palin and Will Ferrell as George W. Bush. I think where late night started to lose is that when they needed that algorithm to show up and how to clip it and show it, that comedy that they were doing just didn't work. And I think their business model slowly went a different direction. That's why we start to see late night fall apart as it is. Now, I think there's a second piece, and there is a partisan piece to this, is when you alienate half your audience. There are a lot of shows as a Republican I just have no interest in watching because I don't want 10 minutes of you just beating up on me. I will be the first to admit Republicans give you a lot of material these days, but you still have to be funny and good at it. And I think that's where late night comedy really struggles. And that's where I think The Daily Show still continues to do well with Jon Stewart every week. I also think SNL is probably stronger than it's ever been in a long time because they finally picked the right Trump and they're able to pick the right Hegseth and pick the right people.
The genius of what Colbert used to do, and I don't think he ever reached these heights on his CBS show, but what he used to do on Comedy Central through the Colbert Report, he was this stunning meta commentary. I don't know how he was able to hold in both sides of his brain simultaneously, keeping the bit going of the character he was portraying and lampooning it at the same time.
That's what was remarkable. Republicans at the time thought he was actually a conservative, while he was actually lampooning them as what he was saying. And it was funny, but all these are like, oh, you see Colbert, and he's a great conservative, but he never was. And that's the beauty of comedy done right. When comedy's done right, it opens the door and has that conversation, gives you permission to laugh, gives Republicans even permission to be like, yeah, that did sound kind of silly. And that's why he was successful on Comedy Central. And I think that's why Fallon and Kimmel and Colbert have all struggled on late night television.
I think what we're identifying here, just to try to wrap this together, is Colbert provided an important service for me emotionally and for a lot of people as an outlet, that lampooning phase, even what he provided on late night. I'll admit, I didn't watch a ton of it over the last 10 years. There is a loss of something that was unifying about, hey, we all watch the same collection of shows. That media landscape is gone. That reality, that cultural reality is gone. And so we can mourn it. But I think at the same time, very much the role of political satire, humor is alive and well. I'm reading this book about constraints and how they unleash innovation and creativity. And many commentators have speculated that Colbert is going to go on to bigger and more interesting things once he's off of the big broadcast platform and onto something where he has more creative control and can operate without corporate limits and do something interesting. It'll be in a narrower niche, but it might be more innovative. We didn't get the best out of John Oliver until he constrained himself into this format that wasn't broad. It was really a news magazine embedded inside satire. I think there's hope up ahead that we're going to get more valuable stuff. It's just not going to play the same role as it did in the heyday of late night comedians.